going up, we're going forward, doing it every day. The Pierre way. We're going up, we're going forward, doing it every day. The Pierre way. We're going up, we're going forward, doing it every day. The Pierre way. We're going up, we're going forward, doing it every day. The Pierre way.
What's up? What's up? What's up? It's Robe.
And it's Mima.
And this is another episode of the Pierre Way Podcast.
Yeah, coming back at it again with another one.
It's another episode, y'all. And today we're talking accountability.
All about accountability.
Accountability, the effects of accountability. So we're just going to get right into it for this episode.
Yeah, so babe.
You want me to go first?
Yeah,
you want me to go first?
So what does it mean? What does accountability mean? What does it mean to be accountable?
For the purposes of this episode and how we define accountability, accountability is pretty much someone that you have trusted to help you get to an identified goal. Okay? So you are trusting them and you are listening to their wisdom. You're listening to their counsel and advice so they can help you get to a goal that you have identified. Yeah. That's what accountability is. Yeah. And so if you've identified whether, hey man, I want to live for God, or you have identified I want to lose weight, or you've identified like I want to go back to school and graduate with this degree, you have trusted someone to hold you accountable towards that goal. So they're giving you advice on how to get to that identified space. That's what accountability is. Yeah. And so we both have just different experiences with accountability, but we live by it.
Yeah, it's definitely the Pierre way, for sure.
It is. The Pierre way is to definitely be accountable to somebody. And the reason why that is, I would ask you, why is accountability so important to you?
Accountability is important to me because I think it's important to have, a person in my life who is going to help me to keep true to my word as it relates to, like, if I say I'm going to, so I'll just use something like simple, like losing weight, right? If I say like I'm going to lose 10 pounds, I want to have somebody who's going to make sure that I get to that goal. That may be in the form of a trainer. That might be in the form of somebody else who's also on a weight loss journey and wants to do it with me together. It could be you, but whatever that may look like, that person's helping me get there. So they may be working out with me. They may be monitoring my food. They may be my nutritionist, give me the foods to eat. But that's why it's important to me, because they help me stay true to my word. Because oftentimes what happens is whatever the goal it may be, life happens and we either forget or don't prioritize the goal. And so accountability helps you to stay on track, helps you to stay focused. I also feel like accountability is really helpful because, I think about like the people who in our life who hold us accountable when it comes to like, us and like our marriage, like our pastors, my parents, your parents. It's like those people, if we're, going through a rough time or a patch, or, if we're having a disagreement, there are people who we trust, who we can go to, and we can have conversations real, raw, and authentically to say, hey, help me to work through this. I think accountability, I think only works if you're going to be vulnerable. if you're going to be truthful and you're going to be vulnerable, that's the only way accountability is going to work.
That is so good, because a lot of people say they want accountability, but then when they get to the person, they don't tell the truth.
Just straight lying.
They don't tell the truth.
That is not helpful. That is a disservice to you. Like, you want somebody to help you to be able to be a better version of yourself in a certain type of way. You need to be honest with it. So being honest looks like, things that you did that may be right and not right. Being honest looks like sharing how you really feel about something, and not, accountability also too, and we haven't gotten to this yet, but accountability should be a person or a place that you can also feel like you can be vulnerable with, right? Yeah. Like you cannot have somebody be your accountability and you just feel uncomfortable.
Which is why it's so important someone shouldn't tell you that they are your accountability partner. You need to be able to ask someone to be like, I can't come to and be like, you know what? I'm going to hold you accountable. No, if you didn't ask me, I don't need to be all up in your business. Just talking about I'm holding you accountable. Right. And that, I think sometimes, whether it be mentors or leaders or different things like that, they adopt certain people that never asked them in the first place. Right. So then that person never feels safe to be honest. That person never feels like they need to be the one calling, because if you're going to ask for accountability, you need to go after it. Yep. You need to be the one that says, I need time. I need to talk. I have some advice that I need. I have some things I'm dealing with. And so you need to ask for accountability. Yeah. Accountability doesn't claim you.
Yeah, no. So what happens to me is like people will approach me and ask me to hold them accountable for different things. And whenever I do say, sure, I follow up then. I'm like, what does that look like for you?
Right.
Because the way that I may think that was the best way to hold you accountable may not be the way you need. And what you may need, I may not even be able to live up to it. So like, I know people who it's like, again, I'll use the weight loss thing, for example. It's like, yeah, I need to hold me accountable for weight loss. I'm like, okay, so what does that look like? Do you want me to go to the gym with you? So are we going to the gym together 2-3 times a week? Yeah. Is that the way that you want me to hold me accountable?
Those
Is it
expectations,
do you want me to call you every day and check in on you? And based off of how you want to be accountable, I can assess if I actually can do that for you. Because the truth is that I may not be the best person to be your accountability. I may not be able to do that for you. I may not be able to live to your expectations.
Absolutely. Listen, I've had some people, I've held them accountable on things, and it's been amazing to see that growth. And I've had some people where they asked me to hold them accountable, and I started to, and they're just like, it's not working out. Yeah. And I think there is a thing to understanding what it is that you're asking and making sure that communication is clear on both ends. But also, folks really got to understand what accountability is and what accountability is not. Yeah. Accountability is not control. Oh yeah, it is not control. Yeah. At the end of the day, whoever you're asking to hold you accountable, they don't have control over you. Right. What they can do is give you their advice and their counsel, and you have to make the choice to do it. Accountability doesn't work unless there's agreement. Right. And so if there's no agreement in the relationship, if you want to, get to a level that someone's at, you want to make a certain amount of money, and they telling you what to do and you don't agree with it, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't work. The relationship doesn't work if there's agreement, and the relationship doesn't work if there's not trust. Right. If there's not trust, which is very important. Like, don't just be going to anybody asking, I need to be held accountable. Yeah. If I'm going to go to you and ask to be held accountable in a certain area, you should have some fruit and some evidence of your success. Their receipt. Like we said it in another episode. It's like, you do not take swimming lessons from someone who's drowning. Yes. I'm not going to ask someone to be an accountability for us in our marriage if they're not even married. If they're not married, or they've had... anyways, you're that person's receipt. And that's why I think that's so key what you're saying, because I think a lot of the time we just see people who in our eyes are glorified on a stage or on a platform, who are a leader. And because of where they hold position, we're like, yeah, they should be my accountability. Yeah. And it's like, that's the highlight reel. We're focusing so much on the highlight reel. I'll tell you guys this so much. Please pay attention to the people that are not on the platform, but they carry weight. They carry years. Wow. They carry years under their belt of success in areas that they're not even loud about. But a lot of these people that we're going after for accountability can be, we see, oh my God, they're huge, they're glorified. But please pay attention to the couple in the back that's been married 30, 40 years. You know what I'm saying? That's raised their children. Their children love the Lord. Please pay attention to people that, been working in a field for decades, and they've grown over and over and over and over again. Pay attention to the fruit. Listen, the fruit is not as loud. The fruit is not as loud. The track record is not as loud. And a lot of us are paying attention to people that are just loud as they come up, but they don't have enough fruit. And so a lot of people that hold us accountable, a lot of people that we talk to are not people that have major stages, but their fruit is like really good. Yeah. Their fruit is really good. Like, they've proven it. People that hold us accountable financially, or people that hold us accountable in our marriage, or people that hold us accountable as parents, people that hold us accountable to our health.
No, right.
Like their fruit is like, okay, you've done something. I'm huge on, if I'm gonna listen to you, you got to give me a reason to listen to you.
Yeah.
And it's like, once you give me that reasons, once I've looked at the fruit, then that establishes trust.
Yeah.
And so when you say something that I disagree with, that I'm like, man, I didn't know that. I trust you. And the reason why I trust you is because I was like, you must know something I don't because of your fruit.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the reason why we don't trust accountability is because we are not associated with the right partners in accountability. And so there's no trust.
Right.
And when there's no trust, it's like it's coming in one ear, out the other. You still do whatever it is that you want to do.
So let's plainly put it, babe. Like, now that we've talked about what is accountability and a little bit of what it isn't, right? Like, let's make it plain. What are the benefits of being accountable? Like, plainly put, the Pierre ways of benefits of being accountable.
Oh my gosh, there's so many things you could say. But when you are accountable to someone, you want to be accountable to someone who has been where you are. And so what ends up happening is that they help you get to your destination in the most efficient, in the most healthiest, and you could even say in the fastest way possible, without making the mistakes that they made.
Right.
That's the benefit.
Right.
It's like, you went through this already and you made these mistakes. You get to go through a journey without falling into the same traps that they did.
Right.
And so when you do that, it's like it accelerates you to a different point. I mean, why do you, if it takes 5 years to get to somewhere, but someone has done it and they said, you know what, I've done it. If you want to take 3 years to get there, here's what you got to do. Why would you choose the 5-year route? That's what accountability does. And it helps you get somewhere faster, healthier. It helps you get somewhere mature. It helps you get somewhere the best way possible. And when you do that, it helps you get there with less casualties. Because you could get somewhere at the same amount of time, but because of your lack of experience, because of your lack of counsel, because of your lack of maturity, you get there, and by the time you get there, there's so many casualties. You've ruined relationships. You've messed up here. You've messed up there. But because you didn't have the right accountability. So when you have accountability, you get to your destination, and you're in a healthier process than you could have.
And I think that, like, you know, like if you're gonna ask somebody to be your accountability, whether it's partner, to hold you accountable, it's because you trust them.
Yeah.
It's just like you had said. And it's like, there are going to be moments where your accountability is going to give you pieces of advice. You may not agree with it in the moment.
Yeah.
You may be like, I don't really know, I'm not really sure, or questioning it. But that's why it's important that if you're going to ask somebody to be your accountability, that, like, from jump, you trusted them.
Yeah.
And you've done your research. You've looked at the evidence of their fruit.
Right.
You've looked at their receipt. And so when there may be a disalignment in, like, what you think that they're saying and how you feel, you want to be able to make sure that you have conversation about it with them.
Right.
You want to be able to understand where they're coming from, right? And it's not control, right? It's not like, hey, I don't agree with you, but whatever, I'm going to do it necessarily. But it's more of a space of, okay, I hear what you're saying, and I know, and I believe, and I know that there's a reason that you're saying what you're saying because of your experience or because of what you've seen. So how can I couple this with the word of God to make sure that, like, I'm doing this right?
Yeah. And it's so important that as we, you have your accountability partners, that your accountability partners are not just your friends.
Oh my
like,
goodness.
Please,
oh
like,
my goodness.
You need seasoned elders, is what I call them. You need people that are older, that are wiser than you to be your accountability. We don't got to be friends. For you to be my accountability partner. You don't got to be friends. You don't got to be like, we don't got to be laughing together all the time.
Not at all.
No, you're in my life to help me get from point A to point B that I've identified. And sometimes a lot of us are saying our accountability partners is our boys or it's our friends and all these different things. And they struggling with the same thing you struggling with. They're going through the same stuff you're going through. And it's like, no, I need an accountability for right now as a father. I need to be accountable to a father that has raised their children and their children are successful adults. Yeah. So then when I have an issue as a father that I don't know, I'm like, okay, how do you think I should handle this? Because you've raised 1, 2, 3 children. You've seen this. I am not going to be accountable to someone who just had a baby. I'm just not. Your experience doesn't match.
Yeah.
And so, and I think we need to be careful, because I think there are some things that my friends can hold me accountable to.
Yeah.
Like I have friends who are beasts at the gym, who work out,
Right.
and their discipline is amazing. I have people that are younger than me that their discipline is amazing. Their eating habits are amazing. And I'm like, yo, you got to hold me accountable there in that space, because they've proven a certain in a certain area. So I don't want to seem ageist about anything, but I just want to make sure like there's certain areas that you can look at. So you want to make sure you kind of like really, really look into this. One question, and I think this has come up before in so many different ways, is what do you do when someone hurts you, and then like if you feel like this person was a mentor, or this person was a leader, and this person was an accountability partner, but they've hurt you in the process. What do you do? How do you move forward with it?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, just really, if you can, try your best to just like, first of all, not let it jade you, right? Because the reality of it too is the unfortunate reality is that there are people who will have negative experiences with accountability partners or with mentors, and as a result, they need to move on. They find another one, right?
Yeah. And just disclaimer, you're gonna have multiple.
Oh yeah.
Like throughout your lifetime.
It's not, you don't just
one
like, you don't
person
just one
is
person
not
in your
enough.
life for your whole life.
It's
No,
not enough.
No, it doesn't work that way. And so because of that, I just want to preface by saying it's like we have to be just really careful to make sure that like we don't let the experience of one impact the experience of another. Right?
That's good.
Because at the end of the day, like it's like we're moving forward, we're moving on.
Yeah.
But with that said, I think like if you're in a situation where you've been hurt by someone who was your accountability, as much as you can, definitely let them know. Like have a conversation about it. I think especially depending on who the person is, between life experience, age, all that stuff, what we often forget is that like you may be holding me accountable in one area of my life, but that doesn't mean that all the other areas of your life necessarily are put together or like that you can also hold me accountable in all those other areas. And so I think what can sometimes happen is we get hurt by someone who's our accountability, and we forget that they're human and we forget that they also are a person. We don't recognize that like they also go through stuff. And so it's like, I've seen it happen where people have like this like quote unquote perfect accountability relationship with someone, and a blip happens in the road. And that blip that happened in the road actually had nothing to do with you at all, right? But as a result, you were impacted by it. But what ended up happening is the person just gets jaded by it and like runs away. Yeah. And it's like, you got to remember, like we can't glorify people.
Come on.
People
That's
go
good.
through stuff. Any person, it can be an accountability, it could be a leader. Like people go through stuff, and when you get to the place where you glorify somebody, and you almost make them like they're your God, you almost idolize them. It's a scary place because you not only set yourself up to possibly be hurt, but also you put that person in a position where they just can't be human. Like they can't they end up feeling like they have to be this perfect person. And so I would kind of say like accountability, while it's me receiving something from somebody for an area of my life, I also should be conscious of like that person and like where they are in their life.
That is so good. That is
you gotta consider the other person. And I think consideration is regardless of age. I think when I say that, people think consideration is like, oh, if they're my peer. No, like consideration for your elders, consideration for your leaders, because the same way you're going through stuff in your life, they're going through stuff in their life as well. And you can't be mad at them for going through the stuff they're going on in your life, because they're trying to help you with the issues that you got going on in your life.
You can't be selfish because at the end of the day, we're all human.
Yeah.
And I think it's easy to fall in that trap.
Oh yeah.
Because this person has accomplished something you haven't, so you feel like everything that comes out of their mouth is gold. You feel like their life is perfect, but it's not true.
Yeah.
No one is. So then when they wrong you, that expectation of perfection that you have gets shattered, and then it's like, it's like the sky's falling. Everything is done. Everything is ruined.
Because a lot of the time we go to somebody for accountability for one thing and it goes great. And so as a result, again, we're vulnerable with this person. We end up, reaching out to them for multiple things in our life. Right.
Right.
And that's fine. That's okay. But somewhere along the way, you can get hurt, and I'm not saying it's whether it's your fault, their fault, whoever's fault, the situation's fault. But like I find that when people get hurt when they are in these accountability relationships, it is because they forget, and basically they forget like they are human.
Yeah, I think the other piece of it is too, when people do get hurt in these relationships is because they cross boundaries.
Oh yeah.
So I think you gotta be very careful, like that no one crosses a boundary with you and you don't necessarily cross boundaries with them.
Yeah.
And it's very important for you to understand that if I'm holding you accountable in this area and this is the role that you play in my life and this is the role I play in your life, be careful not to cross boundaries. Be careful not to leave that space in your relationship prematurely.
Yeah.
Because there are people that have held us accountable in different things, and then the relationship has evolved in a very healthy way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like, they become like family, or they become, and I think that's great. That's beautiful. But that happened over time and it happened organically. So be careful not to necessarily cross boundaries in an unhealthy way.
Yeah.
And when it comes to that, because then the relationship gets so convoluted. It gets so like, undefined. And it's like, what are you? No, it's just, you want to be careful. That's your mentor. That's your mentor. If that's your teacher, that's your teacher. If that's your leader, that's your leader. If that's, if that's your friend, that's your friend. You want to make sure you keep things as clear as possible, as well defined as possible.
And that, I would say, even for those who may be listening who are accountability to people, right? So I think a lot of what we said is for those who are seeking counsel, those who are seeking accountability. But for those who may be holding other people accountable, right? So like you are the person who has been asked to hold somebody accountable. It's equally as important for you to set those boundaries as well.
Yeah.
Because what can happen, the same way that someone may glorify or idolize an accountability, sometimes when we are holding people accountable, it can feed into our ego, and we may even think like, "Oh, I'm all that. Like I got all the answers. Like I'm gonna help you here. I'm gonna help you there. I'm gonna build you up. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that." And it's like
Been there.
You got to be very, very mindful for yourself that you are human, and
that you're human, and then you, everyone's not gonna listen to everything that you say.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and you don't have control over people. I was one of those accountability partners where if I'm holding someone accountable, man, I dream bigger dreams for them than they do for themselves.
Yeah,
like I'm pushing them to go even higher than they want to go.
Yeah,
and so I've had to grow to the point where like, nah, this is not where that person was, and this is not who that person is. And even though it would be great if they became that person, which is why I define that definition of accountability I gave in the beginning. I had to grow to that definition. It's like, don't just go and hold somebody accountable and think that what you see, what God has shown you for them is what they want. No, you got to hold that person accountable to say, okay, where do you want to be? Who do you want to be in life? And then is that what you want me to hold you accountable to? Because that can kind of like mess you up. And you start planning more for people than they plan for themselves.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy because it's like, I'll just use it as an example, right? Like you can have big dreams for somebody who you're holding accountable for. It's like, just take that to God. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's like, like, I know you're going to be great. I know you can do that. You meet that person where they are and you go to God and you pray, God, help reveal what you've shown to me to that person.
That's wisdom.
In your own way, God. Like however they need to find that out for themselves, whether it be next tomorrow, whether it be next year, whether it be in 10 years, whether it be while I know them or beyond when I know them. It's like, God, reveal to them what I see for them, and help them to have to have that very thing. Because I also don't want to discredit for like accountability. Like when you see great things for people, I think you absolutely should see great things for people, but it's not our job to make those people great, right? Like it is our job simply to help walk with those people and steward them to the path of them being that great.
That is good.
So
that is good. It is not your job to make those people great.
It's not our job.
That is so good.
Because the reality is that if it was our job to make those people great, I would assume then we could make ourselves great. And the truth is that we're not always great. We're not always great.
Your job as a mentor, as a leader, is to help direct that person to the path
Yes.
towards greatness,
Yeah,
and not
absolutely.
necessarily the one that is making. That is good.
No, you're like, yeah.
That is really
you just have to
good.
be able to walk alongside them. And so I think that's just very important for those of us who, and for everybody, whether you want to be accountable or you are in accountability, is like, we're just being directed to the path for greatness.
And for those of us that are here that are wondering, like, okay, where do I find people? Like, I get that question asked all the time. Where do I find a mentor? Where do I find leaders? Where do I find like people that can help me and stuff like that? My answer to that is people, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
You have to just be able to identify fruit in people's lives that you absolutely enjoy and desire. Yeah. So it's like if you see them and there's something in them that you see, you got to be bold enough to say, man, I'm looking for someone that could hold me accountable in that area. But don't be too quick. Don't be too quick to just go ask somebody to be a mentor, go ask somebody. Pay attention.
Because you know what the issue is? We title hungry.
Ooh.
We running to the next person that we can call a mentor. We running to the next person that we can say, that's our accountability partner. That's my leader. And it's like, take your time. Because the reality of it is that for in my life, a lot of those people who ended up being my accountability, my mentors, etc., were people who were walking with me for a while.
Yeah.
And for a while, they were doing that very thing without even the title.
Yep.
So they didn't even have the title mentor. They didn't even have the title accountability. And they were an accountability.
Yeah.
They were a mentor. So it's like, be mindful to not rush into it. And then vice versa. Like, don't be so title hungry that you're trying to get a title from somebody. You want to be called this, you want to be called that. No.
Yeah.
Check your heart. It's not about the titles.
And
right?
test it. Test the relationship.
Yeah.
Be like, okay, cool. We go out to lunch and then let's see if hey, I'm dealing with this. What are your thoughts?
Right.
Cool. You test it. And then you test it a couple times and you're like, you know what? This person has been giving me real advice.
Right.
I can vouch for them. And also, this is the last bit of it. Whoever is holding you accountable, make sure that they are accountable to somebody else.
Ooh,
make sure that you
that's
can
a biggie.
identify someone else that can vouch for their character and their integrity. If this person is not submitted or accountable to someone, it's going to be very hard for you to submit and be accountable to them and for them to understand you. So that's a key. Know who they're submitted to, know who can vouch for who they are, and then be able to kind of like almost date them before something becomes official.
Which means don't just look at somebody's Instagram feed and be like, oh yeah,
let me go in their DMs or whatever.
Yeah. No. Do your research. Look and see where they are at, what they're about, who they're under, who they're connected to, and begin to walk alongside that person.
Absolutely. And that's the Pierre way, y'all, towards accountability.
Yeah.
That accountability is necessary.
Yes.
It's necessary. It's necessary. Don't do life alone. We weren't created to do life alone. Make sure you look for the right ones. Take your time. Be prayerful about it. And know that they're all around. All you got to do is look for them. Yeah.
And so if you have any more questions, please drop them in the comments below. Like we've said plenty of times before, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're on YouTube. Be sure to like and comment. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Send us a DM too if you have a question that you want to ask, but you don't want to put it in the comments. We're more than happy to respond there as well.
Love you, family. Yeah. We'll see you next time for another episode of the Pierre Way Podcast. Until then, keep moving onwards and upwards.
Have a good one, y'all.
Peace.
Yeah.
We're going up. We're going forward.